Every single time you blame somebody else, you are giving your power away. You forgiving, you accepting is just saying, that was unacceptable, but I no longer wish to carry the energy of it with me anymore. At some point, you keep telling the same story that mom didn't love me, dad was never there, and you keep telling the story to everybody that will listen. And that is not healing. You are meant to live a big, bold, beautiful, amazing life. And you can't do that with those anchors holding you down. If you keep bringing up the same wound, the same thing over and over and over again to talk about, you're not healing it anymore. You are just hanging on to it because at some point that became your identity. The very thing that you are ashamed of is actually the very thing that's your superpower. Everyone is talking about shadow work. It's all over the place. I think that nobody really talks about how to do it, what it is. And so shadow work is really just the parts of you that you decided were unlovable, that you decided that you needed to be ashamed of. And so, in my opinion, those are the moments for growth. Those are the moments that you were put here for in order to grow through so that you can use as a bigger superpower that you can use to your advantage because you grew through something. And so, what I really love to do is kind of go in to those shadowy parts of ourselves. And this is like one of the biggest things I do, and really show light to it, show some love to it, so that then you can move with it. You can't erase anything, right? But you can heal through it. And this can be our biggest downfall by not, or it can be our biggest superpower. And we are unconsciously choosing to let it be our downfall, to let our stories be our downfall. And from now going forward, I want you to allow your stories to actually shape you into the superhero you were meant to be. Welcome to the Spirit and Soul podcast. I am your host, Tiffany Cohen. And just know that healing should always flow. It should never, ever linger. If you keep bringing up the same wound, the same thing over and over and over again to talk about, you're not healing it anymore. You are just hanging on to it because at some point that became your identity. And so, in order to start to understand that, we really have to know what our shadows are, how we are identifying ourselves by it, and then learn how to start bringing so much more awareness and acceptance to it, and then integrating it into our lives, the higher level version of it. So let's get into it right now. So, shadow, your shadows. As I'm saying it, you might be like, "Ooh, I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to go there." Nobody does. But here's the thing, when you go through and really confront your shadows, it feels scarier, but then it's also, once you go through it and you dissect it and like let the darker parts of it go so that the beauty of it can remain. And I say that lightly, okay? Because shadow comes in many big T trauma forms, but the beauty of it can be that you grew through it. You grew out of it. And so I'm not saying that the action had beauty in it, but what I'm saying is that the other side of it, the you, the version of you that is stronger on the other side of it, that made it through, that knows that they are so strong, that they are resilient. That's the beautiful part of it all. So if it had to happen, if it did happen, how can we now reshape these things into making it that it's not affecting our lives and being an anchor in our lives, but it's actually allowing us to grow and become a better version of ourselves? So, shadow is these parts of us that are usually situation based, or like somebody told us something about ourselves that we accepted as true and now becomes our shadow. So sometimes that can be like, I am too much, you're weird, you're different, I don't love you. Or that people act in a way in your life that feels like you're not lovable. It could be that like you just feel not enough. Maybe somebody has told you in your life that like you're not enough, you're not good enough. And so these things, and of course, different situations, different traumas, it could be abuses, it could be anything like that. They become parts of our shadow. And when our shadow is left on its own, What really happens here is like they become anchors for us. And anything, and it's an energetic anchor, it will keep you stuck. It will keep you playing small. It'll have your light being dimmed so low. So, shadow is not an evil thing. It's just a hidden thing. It's something that you are like burying down deep, or at some point you buried down deep, maybe even unintentionally buried it down. And so it's beginning to stay there. And then on top of it, what happens is that the reason that it even gets buried or stay with us in the first place is that the ego creates the shadow in order to protect. And then it stays in the subconscious mind in order to protect you so that you don't feel like that again, so that you don't have to go through it again because whatever it was about that situation wasn't safe. And it's the ego's job to keep you safe, keep the human alive. And so it's trying to do that by keeping you in this place of stuckness, even if it feels uncomfortable. It is the known discomfort. And so we're okay with that. So, like, the ego's okay with that because you're dealing with it fine. It thinks you're dealing with it fine. But in reality, it's keeping you from fulfilling your soul's dreams, your soul's missions, your soul's purpose. I think that shadow work is the most important thing that you can do because shadow work, healing, I mean, you call it's all the same, right? It's healing through our shadows. It's healing through the things that keep us stuck. It's healing the subconscious mind. And so we cannot manifest anything. I mean, like you might be able to manifest small things. You might be able to bring things into existence and you're quote unquote manifesting it just by sheer hard work. But here's the thing, those things never feel good. It doesn't feel good to create like that. And then it will always be capped. You might not be able to hang on to it for that long. And that's not what you want, right? Like you hear of these people all the time. There was this one girl I'll never forget. She came into the shop and she had a business that had taken off. Like she was making over $1 million. Her business was like thriving for one part of her life. And then suddenly that business started to take a massive turn and started to not make the money that it was making. And to me, immediately, I'm like, it's not the economy. It's not because it was during COVID. It's because you felt unworthy of that money. You felt unworthy of the responsibility that came with that type of business that made that type of money. And so your mind, your subconscious mind, went into either like freeze mode, it did something that completely stopped all sales from coming through. And so she was making like absolutely nothing, like so little, but she hit this mark. And I remember she came to me and she's like, I don't know what to do. I feel like, I want this business. And I tried to kind of explain it a little bit to her, but like she didn't really want to receive it. And it's because, again, whether she knew it or not, that subconscious mind is saying, if I resolve this, then I will be successful again. And so we can't do that. Right. And so, like, this is how the mind, the body, the nervous system really keeps us stuck in a place that we're not comfortable with. We have a known discomfort that's keeping us in the discomfort. But she lost her whole business. She does not have that business anymore. And it's really sad because she was super talented and she had a really great business. And because she didn't work on those things or even try to go there to understand them, she ended up really putting a ceiling on what was possible for her and what was possible for her business. And here's the thing, I don't want that for you. Listen, I get it. Like, I really, really, really get it. It is so super scary to go to those darker places, to remember them, to the things that we feel shame about. Maybe you did something as like a teenager that you're ashamed of that you would never do now. We get that. Maybe it was age appropriate, right? Like we have to like remember these things. Like it's teenagers. We've got hormones flying. We've got, a brain that isn't actually fully developed. And we're not using the logical mind. And we're dealing with things like trying to fit in and, dealing with romance for the first time and dealing with friends as everybody grows up for the first time. And that's hard. And so we do things that are out of character, that are not who you are today and maybe not who you were as a kid, but they were who you were in that moment with all of those things going on, maybe you didn't know yourself then. You lost yourself. That's okay. That's all right. And I feel like this wasn't actually part of what I was going to talk about today. And so I feel like this is really for somebody. This is really maybe for multiple people. Like you needed this story, you needed this example because those teenage years, man, like they are difficult. And we do things that are outside of our character and then we shove them down because we think that, like, oh my, oh, just because, I was a teenager, right? There's that Miley Cyrus song and it's like, I love it. And I'm like getting chills just thinking about it. And it's like, we used to be young, right? And she's like saying that, like, yeah, she did all these crazy things because I used to be young. Right? And it's like we have to really look at those things and say, yeah, they were they were age appropriate and maybe I would not do that and maybe it wasn't right, but like I can let myself off the hook now. Like almost like we keep ourselves in a jail because our stories about who we said we are because we think that we did something quote unquote bad and maybe you did something bad, but like did you learn? Did you become a different person after that? Did you try to rectify it? Let it go now, right? Like, let it go. And now let yourself off the hook for those things. And so that's why I say, like, I get it when we're about to do some shadow work and we're about to go there because it feels scary. Like, you don't want to face those parts of you because, like, you know that they're there, but you're living life as if they're not. But you are subconsciously living life knowing that they are there, and you're limiting yourself from everything that you're meant to do. Like, I am a very, very, very big believer in the fact that everyone is here for a beautiful reason to bring more light to this earth. I really, truly believe that you came here with soul missions. And also, you came here to grow as a soul. And so you have on one hand these soul missions that are really big, bold, beautiful, and like that means something different to everybody. Then you have this growth that's needed. So you have soul missions on one hand and the growth that your soul needs to go on the other. And they really truly go hand in hand. They do. No matter what it is, no matter what, your soul mission could be to be a mother, right? It doesn't have to be this like, and that is big and bold, my friend, to be a mother. And to go through childbirth, whatever that looks like for you, and to experience that, okay? To experience raising a human. It is the hardest job you'll ever have, the hardest. And then to have that be a soul mission, and then on the other hand, to have the growth of the soul. And so in order to be the best version of the mother that you are want to be, you actually have to let yourself off the hook for a lot of things. You also have to forgive yourself. You have to let yourself grow as a soul. And so these things go hand in hand no matter what it is. And so the more that you are a willing participant on your journey for healing, the easier it actually is to heal. I assure you. I will say though that there are times where it's like, oh my God, here we go. And I went to Tim Morrison's. I'll never forget this. I went with Brittany to Tim Morrison's. He did something in the city. He's from Australia and he does like these like breath work, sound healing, shamanic experiences. And they are amazing. They're so, so, so good. As I was there the first day, it was really, really great. I had like a profound realization. And then the second day was supposed to be like the real deep day. And I knew like what was coming. Like I could feel it. I didn't know what it was about, but I could feel the energy rising up. And so as he was like talking in like very beginning, I actually started to panic. Like my energy knew. So even though I do this work for a living, I started to feel like I couldn't breathe. I started to feel, and we weren't even doing breath work or anything. I started to feel like my clothes were too tight, like everything was caving in on me. And so thankfully, in that moment, like I had my hypnosis skills and I had the things to be able to calm my nervous system down in order to let myself experience the healing. So when I say I get it, I truly do get it. Like I had to talk myself down. And if I needed to, if I couldn't do that, then there were people there that I could go to and say, I'm panicking right now. Right. And there's no shame in that game. Okay. There's no shame in saying, I am feeling panic through my body because I probably know what's going to happen and I'm getting nervous about it. And then to let somebody guide you through it because sometimes that's just what you need is a little help. And so I was able to kind of guide myself out of that and have a really great experience the rest of the time. But it took me a minute. So when I say I get it, I get it. But here's the whole thing about a spiritual journey is this. And like I do, first of all, I do a ton of shadow work all the time because know that in manifesting really big things, I need to do really big shadow work. And if I were to look back at my childhood, I would tell you that like I had a great childhood. It was amazing. Even like my teenage years, well, of course I had my crazy things and things that I did and didn't do and whatever. For the most part, I was like I was a good kid. All right. For the most part, I had great experiences, great friends, and everything else. And so, like, if I were to look back at life, I wouldn't think that I was hanging on to a lot. However, as I started to do shadow work, I started to realize that it's not just in the big things, it's also in the small things. Not even just in that, especially as I started to do hypnosis work. Man, oh man, like the littlest things can perpetuate the biggest untruths that we think are truths in our lives. And so I don't care how good your childhood was, you're carrying something. You're carrying multiple things. And because you wouldn't have been brought into this universe with only soul missions and no soul growth. Okay. That's just how it goes. They go hand in hand. So, being the willing participant to go to those places, to do the work, to try the things is really amazing. And the other thing that you have to be willing to do in shadow work is to let go. And that for a lot of you is very hard. And so, we do shadow work to become aware of what's there, but we also have to do the work to accept. And that is where some of you get really tripped up because you think that in forgiving or in accepting that you're saying that it's okay that it happened. And I'm here to tell you that that's not true. You forgiving, you accepting is just saying that was unacceptable, but I no longer wish to carry the energy of it with me anymore. That's what that means. Because you holding on so tightly to something that happened to you as a kid, as a teenager, as a young adult, like you hanging on to those things is only hurting you. I can guarantee you the other person has moved on. It's just that you felt wronged. You carried something. You created a truth about you and who you are. And so you want to hold that other person responsible. But every single time you blame somebody else, you are giving your power away. And I'm not saying that you should blame you also. But what I'm saying is let go of blame and just come back to you. Let go of blame and say, how can I just accept and move on? Right. And you can just accept that it happened and accept that it's now something that you need to grow from. And that's it. And sometimes acceptance means accepting people for who they are. I see this a lot with parents and grandparents because we have expectations of what we think a parent, what a mother should be, what a father should be, what a grandmother should be, a grandfather, siblings, what they should be. And we have these expectations, and they come from so many different places. They come from, just society telling us what a parent should be. They show us these things on TV. They show us perfect families and, they show us we're shown all of these things and told how a relationship should be. And the thing is, and what I always come back to is that mother and that father and that grandmother and that grandfather, they are people just like you. You have given them a title and a rightful title, rightfully so, right? Because that is who they are to you. But they are also people first. They were a person, they were a kid long before you came along. They had experiences, their own experiences that they probably never ever worked through. And so a lot of times they are doing their best with what they had. And a lot of times that is not good enough. And we have to accept that it wasn't good enough, that they could have done better, but maybe they just didn't know how. Or maybe they just weren't willing to be better. Maybe they were in a state of punishment of the self, and that is how they punish themselves by not loving you the way that you feel like you should have been loved, or by perpetuating something that they had, abuse that they had in their own life, or love that they never received in their own life. And they think that that's what's normal, even though it didn't feel good. And so you have one of two options. You can hold on to that and let that be your story for your whole life. Mom didn't love me enough. Dad was never there for me, right? You can have that. And that is part of your story. And I'm witnessing you in it. I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm not saying that you have to dumb it down. But what I am saying is that at some point you have to accept it and move on, because that has become the story of your life. Just like I said, at some point you keep telling the same story that mom didn't love me. Mom didn't love me. Dad was never there. And you keep telling the story to everybody that will listen. And that is not healing. That is not understanding and awareness. That is just holding on. And that's all that that is. And so when you can tell that story without the emotional charge around it, because you fully let it go, you fully accepted it, that is true acceptance. That is true healing. And that's also meaning that you integrated it into your life. It's showing how beautifully you've healed, how far you've come in your healing journey. And so becoming aware of something, it's like you can't have one without the other, right? Like the work for shadow work is awareness, it is acceptance, and it is integration. You can't accept it and then not integrate it. Like, and what that means is you can't accept the person and then still act the same way towards them. Like that means you're not integrating it. You're still acting as the same version of you that still hurts. So like you're aware that mom acts the way that she does towards you, and you accept her for it, but you're still mad at her for it. Like it doesn't work like that. You have to become aware, accept, and integrate. And also, I just want to say this too. Healing is spiralic. And what I mean by that is that you can really see it. And if you listen to the spinal energetics podcast episode that I just did recently, I talked about there being many different layers of the field, the energetic field. And those many different layers can hold an energetic from the same situation in many different layers. And so I never want to hear I healed that already, because honey, you will only know that you healed it through when you really don't focus on it at all anymore, where it doesn't come up for you at all anymore. And I feel like we think that because we want to heal it fully, so we think that we did the work one time, and it's like you don't know how in other ways how you're holding on to that thing. And so I don't want to hear I healed that ever. I don't want to hear that from you. Oh, I did that work already. You could say I work on it, and I've done a lot of work on it, and I feel like I'm in a good place, but you never know what comes up. You never know how the subconscious mind is holding on. I don't know. Don't tell me though that you've healed it, because then you will always be surprised when it comes up again. And it happens to me all the time with clients, is that they're like, "But I healed that already." I'm like, "In one layer, not in the others. We got to keep going." It runs deeper than that. And that's why we say healing is spiralic, because there's so many different layers to the healing. So don't think that just because you do it once doesn't mean that it's not going to come up in another way. Okay. But you've got the tools to work through it when it does. As we start to do this work more and more and more, it actually becomes easier and easier to do. It becomes easier to see and to recognize. You're not spiritually bypassing anything, because you're understanding it, you're looking at it, you're walking through it, you're witnessing your feelings, you're witnessing all the things. Okay, you're not just saying, okay, I accept it, bye, and like actually just kind of blocking it, because that's not doing any good for you. That's not shadow work. That is not the healing work that I'm talking about here. The healing work that I'm talking about is that you do those three things, that you are aware of it, you accept it, and you fully integrate it into your life. I don't want you always looking for things to heal. The things will come up when they're meant to. I just want you to be aware of them when they come up. This is actually a little bit of what I talk about in my book, The Best Life Code, that's coming out in the fall. And I want you to be aware of them when they come up. And when they come up is when you deal with it, when you work with it. So I don't want you to just be on a full healing journey because that's not the point. The point of you being here as a human is not to just heal, right? We have the two sides. We also have the manifesting as the bridge. And so, like, as you start to clear these things out, you're going to be able to manifest way more because you have the space and the room for all of those things. And it's really amazing what happens as you start to clear those things out. It could be things that you were stuck on for so long are now suddenly showing up in your field. And it's the right version of it. So let's say like you're manifesting love, but every time you manifested a partner into your life, they were always not for you. They didn't love you enough. They didn't da 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 da. And so like you did the shadow work and you traced it back to the fact that like mom didn't love you enough. And so like you don't feel lovable and now you start to clear that out. And now all of a sudden you let go of all of the people in your life that don't truly love you and that don't treat you well. And as you start to clear that out, you start to open yourself up to what is actually in alignment with you. And that's the beauty of doing this work. You are meant to live a big, bold, beautiful, amazing life. And you can't do that with those anchors holding you down. You're meant to soar in life, you're meant to fly. And you can't do that if you're anchored down by these like rocks, these boulders of untruths, of all of these things that you've been telling yourself forever. And so, what I want you to do is really start to let it go. This is going to be a little bit of a homework for you. I want you to notice, just notice what comes up randomly for you. What feelings come up? How do you get triggered? Take even like I'm going to say I don't even want to say 24 hours. I want to say like a week. I want a week of you noticing what triggers you. In that moment, I want you to ask yourself, how old am I right now? And then what I want you to do is also just notice what stories come up, what old memories come up, because they're trying to leave you clues in order to see what you need to let go of. So you keep a little notes journal on your phone. You could keep a physical journal, whatever it is, but just take note of it. Make sure you write them down so you don't forget them. And then you can come on into Spirit and Soul and show us what you're working with, taking a class to let it go, starting to understand it. You can absolutely DM us at Spirit and Soul Studio on Instagram or me at I'm Tiffany Cohen to start to try to work through these things and see what we have available for you. But they're coming up for a reason, I assure you. So thank you for joining me on this episode of the Spirit and Soul podcast. I appreciate you so much. If you're watching on YouTube, please make sure that you are subscribing so you don't miss an episode or anything else that we post. It is an awesome channel, it is a great library and resource for your healing, for your manifesting journey, and for your intentional living journey in order to create your best life. And if you are listening on any podcast platform, what I would love for you to do is just leave us a review. They make a really, really big difference. Thank you so much, and I'll see you on the next episode.